kick off LABEST 2021. Thank you, Chancellor Jean Block and Mayor Eric Garcetti for your support of our event. I'm Mark Wisniewski, Senior Director of Biopharmaceuticals at UCLA Technology Development Group, and your MC of the Amgen Auditorium. Welcome everyone to LABEST 2021. Thank you for joining us over these next 3 days. I'd like to thank our innovator sponsors of Amgen and Kite Gilead Company, our UCLA Gold, Bruin Blue, and event sponsors. Also, our LABEST steering committee, who is instrumental in devising this agenda. So to start off, a few housekeeping items. I encourage you to fully utilize the VFAIR's navigation bar at the top of your screen. You'll see that the Amgen and Kite auditoriums will host bioscience panels, which are staggered, and audience questions are welcome throughout. The Lundquist Institute Startup Auditorium will showcase an LA startup track. The Pearl Cullen Poster Plaza has innovative research on display, and the poster award winners will be announced on Wednesday. The daily lounge roundtables of Wilson Sonsini workshops and introductory meetings to research chairs, deans, and core facilities, I encourage you to check out on a daily basis. Finally, I encourage you to engage with the sponsors at the exhibitor booths and utilize the Jujama platform to schedule one-on-one meetings with your attendees. At this time, I'm honored to introduce our YLA keynote panel of Dr. Eric Esrailian. Designated as a UCLA optimist, he is Chief Vatche and Tamar Manoukian Division of Digestive Diseases at the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA, a member of the UCLA Campus Steering Committee for the Centennial Campaign, and co-chair of the newly formed Second Century Council for UCLA. Jaime Lee, president of the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the Port of Los Angeles, CEO of Jamison Realty, and a board member of LA 2028. And Gene Sykes, who served as the CEO of LA 2028, is co-chair of Global Mergers and Acquisitions and co-chair of the Global Technology Media and Telecom Group at Goldman Sachs, and also chair for the Alliance of Southern California Innovation. Now I'd like to turn over to Eric.
Thank you so much, Mark. And it's my honor to welcome you all this morning and have you join us for LABEST 2021. I appreciate the team at the UCLA Technology Development Group for their hard work and dedication towards putting on this incredible conference. I'm really sorry we're not able to do this in person, but hopefully this is one of the last times we'll meet virtually for such an important forum. And this is an exciting discussion for me because I had the honor of being a small part of LA 2024, which became LA 2028 under Gene Sykes' leadership. And Jaime Lee has become an important force in joining Gene and so many other outstanding Angelitos in this effort. And we're really here in this keynote to also celebrate Los Angeles. I would be remiss if I didn't tell you how thrilled I am to be a part of UCLA. It's not only just a top public university, but it is truly an anchor in our community. Given what we've gone through over the last year, UCLA has really led everywhere from fighting the pandemic to being a voice for social justice. And on the healthcare front, UCLA Health and the David Geffen School of Medicine have been instrumental in the battle against COVID-19. As Mayor Garcetti just pointed out, this has been our moonshot. And we've launched innovative programs like the Biodesign program, which I hope you learn about, have made major strides in our Institute for Precision Health. And we're now laying the foundation for an Institute of Immunology and Immunotherapy, which is truly relevant for many of the scientists, investors, and companies participating in this conference. We're also working with our partners at other universities and in the community to make sure Los Angeles is what it is. And I'm so thrilled to be able to speak with Gene and Jaime today. And I'm really looking forward to opportunities to do this more in person. So, Gene, I'm going to kick it off with you, basically because you've been such an incredible force in this process for the Olympics. And I want to just kind of kick off LABEST by talking a little bit about the Olympics, because it's going to be such a source of pride for our community. There's a lot happening in the news with the current Olympics, so we may touch upon that too. But I just wanted to find out, how did you get involved in the Olympic bid, and how did that process unfold for you?
Well, first of all, Eric, thank you very much for asking me to participate in this panel and be part of this LABEST event. I'm a big fan of UCLA. And in fact, the answer to your question is it all started with UCLA, interestingly enough. I was diagnosed with cancer, with lymphoma in 2014, and I was treated, thank goodness, successfully at UCLA. And so I was taking time off after I was treated successfully by Dr. Sven DeVos in the hematology oncology part of UCLA Health. And I was trying to decide what to do next. And that's when Casey Wasserman and Mayor Garcetti approached me and asked if I would help them with a campaign for the LA 2024 bid for the Olympic and Paralympic Games. And it was sort of something out of the blue. I'd always enjoyed the Olympics. I had some perspective on it, but not enough background to really be wise about it or knowledgeable. But it was so appealing to me to get into this very, very big project. And with Casey's leadership, Casey, of course, is very involved at UCLA, and the mayor's great leadership, it was a wonderful opportunity to work with a team and become much, much more deeply involved in something that was going to mean a lot for the future of LA.
That's great. And you know, in terms of the current situation with the Olympics, I mean, I've been following the news, and I'm sure many of the members of our audience have as well. Can you kind of crystallize how important, not just financially, but emotionally it is to host a games, and, you know, what Tokyo is grappling with right now? I mean, it must be heartbreaking for so many people who have been, not only the athletes who had a whole year of postponement, but all of the hardworking people in the country who have been preparing for the games.
So a Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games, you should think about the two as being paired, represents well over 200 countries, well over 15,000 athletes, and literally hundreds of medal events. It's the apex of athletic participation and competition for so many sports, and not just the sports that we Americans enjoy, track and field and swimming and beach volleyball, for example, and gymnastics, which are great sports in our culture, in our community, but sports that we don't really know as well. Sports like team handball, for example, which are incredibly popular around the world. People everywhere in the world look forward to the Olympic Games. And there is a financial element to this. The broadcast and media payments to the IOC get redistributed to athletes and National Olympic Committees all around the world and to the sports themselves. And without those payments, it's very hard to sustain these national efforts with the sports. So hosting and actually holding the Olympic Games, even a year late, is very important. Remember, these 15,000 athletes are literally world-class athletes. They have devoted their entire lives to being in a position where they can compete at the very, very highest level. They've already had 1 year of tremendous disruption, but now they're prepared to peak at this moment. If they can be protected and the society in Japan can be protected, let's assume that's the case, then these games just happening and letting the world enjoy them through media will be a tremendous achievement. And so I'm very optimistic that we're going to see that.
And thank you for your answer. And then I had one question, because you mentioned the Paralympic Games a few times, and I love that you highlight the Paralympics. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of the Paralympics and how the two basically competitions, if you will, are intertwined?
Yes, well, the tradition is that the Olympic Games are hosted first, and then about 10 days later, the Paralympic Games are hosted. The Olympic Games take a little less than 2.5 weeks. They start on Friday with an opening ceremony and close on a Sunday. Likewise, that happens over 10 days for the Paralympic Games in many of the same venues and many sports that are based on the Olympic sports. Paralympic athletes have a more complex situation. There are Paralympic athletes who have no lower limbs or one lower limb or some other disability. But what Paralympic sport represents is the opportunity for these athletes to participate at the same level of elite competition that we see in the Olympic Games. And when I first was introduced to Paralympic sport, the head of the IPC, which is the sort of parallel organization to the IOC, said there are 1 billion people in the world with some physical disability. And these sports are the sports that allow them to participate and them to be included in the same experience that the rest of society has. 1 billion people. And I was completely blown away. I'd never really thought about that. 15% of the world's population. And yet we ignore these people. We don't give them the opportunity to participate in society the way we really should. But Paralympic sport is now developed, so there are world-class athletes in so many of these disciplines. And it's incredibly moving to witness and participate. I think one of the greatest experiences I had during my work with LA28 was when I went to the Paralympic Winter Games in Pyeongchang, Korea in 2018. I had the great good fortune of giving the Paralympic gold, silver, and bronze medals to the winners of the, it was a Nordic skiing, but it was sort of sitting skiing event, an incredible thing. And the winner, or the gold medalist and the bronze medalist, were both American service people who had lost their legs in combat. And, it was incredibly moving to see them achieve this level of athletic distinction.
Oh, that's incredible. And as you said, not only have the athletes been competing for the games, but they've been competing for the games at this time, peaking at the right time. And it's such a physical and mental challenge to prepare for a very specific group of dates. So we really hope that the games proceed as planned. And Jaime, thank you so much for joining us as well. It's a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you. And I wanted to hear a little bit about your story and how you were connected with LA 2028 and how you started your journey.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me today. I'm a native Angelino. I was born and raised in the San Fernando Valley. I went to school there. I went to USC for undergrad and law school. And my family works in real estate. So in many ways, I'm very much tied to the land here in Los Angeles. And because of that, we've really put down roots. I've been a city commissioner for over a decade. I currently serve as president of the Board of Harbor Commissioners for the Port of Los Angeles, as you mentioned. And I was really honored when the chairman of the organizing committee, I wasn't part of the bid committee, but the organizing committee for LA28, Casey Wasserman, asked me to join this board about 3 years ago. And so it's been an honor to serve in this effort and to look so forward in the evolution of Los Angeles. And we always continuously talk about LA becoming and how it evolves and how it's become, the #1 global city for investment as ranked by Schroders. It's the #6 for tech startups in the world. We're actually the 3rd largest metropolitan economy in the entire world. I think we're about to become 2nd. And so in many ways, we're #1 solar city in the US. So we have achieved all of these accolades that are really setting the stage to propel Los Angeles onto the global stage in a way that is so incredibly exciting, and to bring that to fruition through the Olympic movement, and to have the world come here to experience, not just all the normal things that people think about LA, whether it's like celebrities spotting or going to the beach, but this idea of the lifeblood of LA, which is its people, and the top tier talent that we have, this otherwise great lifestyle that we have, and the infrastructure that has already been put in place that does not need to be created in order to host the games, but also that is continuing to be developed because of the games. So whether it's the people mover or the $1 billion worth of infrastructure and clean tech and green technology that we're implementing at the Harbor Department. This is the first time in history, for instance, of the Olympic Games that you can see the Athletes Village 7 years before the games are taking place, because it's at UCLA. And because I'm a diehard Trojan, I also have to mention that the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum will be the first venue in history to host an event for 3 Summer Olympic Games as well. So that's what brought me on board. I'm not an athlete, unfortunately. I played club sports all through college, but this concept that the world is coming to Los Angeles to experience what we all know is so great and so exciting, and to also become part of the story of what LA is going to become is what makes me so passionate about being part of this amazing organization.
Well, thank you, Jaime. That's fantastic. And I knew you were going to get a couple of Trojan accolades in there, so it's all good. So this is a friendly rivalry. That's right. That's right. Well, I loved hearing your story about being a native Angelino. I'm originally from the Bay Area, but I'm a diehard Angelino now, and I recall coming to a couple of events in 1984 when we hosted the Olympics, and it's thrilling for me to see LA 2028 coming. Although sometimes you worry, okay, is it coming too fast? So now, in your current role on this committee, what do you see as some of the most pressing issues that we need to address as a city? I mean, it's so exciting. You just laid out some of the incredible assets that Los Angeles has. But as a community, what can we be doing, and what are you and your team thinking about as the most pressing issues? Because before we know it, 2028 will be here.
Yeah, that's interesting that you ask whether it's coming too fast. I think it couldn't come soon enough. Just the excitement. This is the longest lead time that a host city has had in advance of an Olympic Games to sort of prepare. And so we've actually had a lot of the pressures alleviated in many ways because we're not building stadiums, we're not building highways to nowhere in order to host these games. So much of that infrastructure is already in place that we're looking at the social infrastructure, at equity, and how we can support youth sports, for instance. This concept that we could bring together youth programs in partnership with the city of Los Angeles and potentially even have some of these athletes, homegrown athletes, participate in the Olympic and Paralympic Games at some point. With the social justice movement, with everything that has happened in COVID that has highlighted so many of the inequities that happen within our societal structure, that LA 28 can actually play a huge role in this. We have a couple other major events like the Super Bowl coming this February, which will have an enormous economic impact and boost. And I really think as like a teaser for the local community and for the population base here to see what an impact having that kind of national attention or international attention can really bring to our city as it relates to small businesses, as to, minority and women-owned contractors that can provide services for these games, to revitalizing areas the way SoFi Stadium will for the Inglewood area. And then potentially, FIFA will come in 2026 right before to utilize so much of this infrastructure that is in place. So I think, we actually have this sort of cushion of planning, of reaching out to our ideals in many ways of how we want these events to best support and kind of transform what our city will be moving into the future.
I want to put a particular plug in for golf. As you probably know, the national championship for golf every year is the US Open, one of the 4 major golf tournaments, but literally the national championship because it's an open tournament. So people can qualify by playing in tournaments to get to the US Open. There are always amateurs who play in the US Open. And for the first time in 75 years, in 2023, Los Angeles will host the US Open for golf right at the Los Angeles Country Club, which is literally next door to UCLA. So the center of the city is going to get exposed and kind of revealed in a way which will be a precursor to what we see with the Olympic and Paralympic Games. So I think Jamie's right. There's a tremendous amount of excitement coming over the next several years because of multiple events and the investment that we're making in our city in new infrastructure and transportation, and a lot of the things that I think will create a better platform and a better environment for people to live in.
Yeah, you can tell I'm not a big golf person, but I did watch Phil Mickelson. I did watch Phil Mickelson close it out this weekend, so I'm not totally blind to what's going on in that realm.
No, I know you're not. And thanks for bringing it back to UCLA, Gene. Well, I wanted to ask you, since you obviously also, this is a conference where we have some of the most incredible entrepreneurs, scientists, and investors convening. And I know you have a long track record as well in this space. What can you tell us a story about the race to 2024 versus 2028 with Paris, and how kind of that decision and that decision tree played out? Because I know those were really interesting and probably tense times for you and the committee.
Well, when this competition started, there were 5 cities in the competition, and we thought it was going to be a several-year competition leading to a vote among IOC members to choose one city. And the sort of legacy of this is that both New York City and Chicago had tried in previous bids to win the Olympic and Paralympic Games, and they lost. New York City lost to London, and Chicago lost to Rio. And so for the 2020 Games, which was supposed to be in Tokyo, there was not even a city from the United States in the competition because the US and the US Olympic Committee were so demoralized, they didn't know what to do. So we were the comeback city for the United States. And because we had the legacy of the 84 Games and even the 1932 Games, we felt as if we could do this and the community would support it. And throughout our bid, we would poll the community. We had 80% support within the community. People said they really wanted to see the Games come to Los Angeles. So that was a foundation for what we tried to do. And those 5 cities, they were all European cities, Paris, obviously, but also Hamburg, Budapest, and Rome. And one by one, Hamburg, Budapest, and Rome dropped out of the competition because it was too stressful for their citizens to think about spending the money to build the infrastructure and take on the obligations of hosting the Games. You know, Tokyo will spend billions and billions of dollars in infrastructure and managing these Games, and they've obviously been through a tremendous amount of stress. That was true in Rio as well. In Los Angeles, we always had the theory that because all of the infrastructure was already in place, you know, we sell 12 to 13 million tickets to professional sporting events in Los Angeles every single year. That's equal to all of the tickets sold for both the Olympics and the Paralympics. So we're actually asking people who already do hosting of professional sporting events in their venues to take on the Olympics. And they all tell us, well, we can do this. We know what we're doing. We do it for a living. So
right.
we are the best. We're the best community in the world to host these Games. But because of that, when it became clear it was going to be Paris versus Los Angeles for 2024, the IOC got very nervous because they thought in the wake of the United States losing in 2000 for the 2012 Games and the 2016 Games, if we weren't chosen for 2024, if we lost to Paris, it would be hard to see a reconstructed bid for 2028. Paris was putting everything they could into 2024, in part because it's the centennial of the last time Paris hosted the Olympics in 1924. Right. But asking Paris to think about trying to do 2028 if they had lost, no chance. So the IOC looked at the landscape and said, we have the 2 best cities in the world. They both want to do the Games. They put tremendous energy into constructing bid proposals, and we trust both of them to be competent to do this. Let's be smart for a change. Let's not wait for the next competition when we don't know who's going to be in it. Let's see if they can decide between the 2 of them who takes 28, who takes 24, and we'll award the Games to both of them. So that, as you might imagine, led to lots of interesting discussions between our team and Paris. But I think it's a very happy outcome. This works well for Paris. I think it works great for Los Angeles. And as the head of the IOC said, it was a win-win-win because we had 2 winning cities and the IOC believed they won at the same time.
That's incredible. And really thank you for your leadership, because I know those were difficult days, but it worked out well. And, you know, based on everything you both said today, I'm really excited, more excited than ever before. Since this is, you know, partially a business conference, I want to actually ask a business question as we kind of close out our session here. You know, we have a lot of people, as an investor myself, who's involved in a lot of different personal investments. You know, we look at the landscape in California and Los Angeles, and some people at times criticize and say this is not a hospitable city for business. You know, I disagree. I continue to invest here. What can you say with your experience as people involved in the business community of Los Angeles about why it's important that we continue to charge forward and the changes you see that our city has been making to make it more hospitable and more welcoming for business? And this would to both of you. We'll start with Jaime.
Sure. I mean, Bloomberg has said we are growing faster than any other city in the U.S. Schroeder's for the last 5 years, from an economic standpoint, is the #1 city for investment. And I feel like people understand that the talent pool, the diversity of our population, not only homegrown, but people who come here to study at the universities that are in Southern California. And it doesn't matter the industry, whether it's, our industry, like the entertainment industry or the fashion industry or art and architecture or the growing industries within the life sciences, within the green economy and the blue economy. This is literally the testing ground for all of these new technologies that will guide us in the future. Even just at the Port of LA, zero emissions technology, which is not widely available, is current. We have 26 testing projects that are happening right now with hydrogen fuel cell trucks and all electric top handlers and things like that. And I think from because of the population base being so large, we can attract so much talent because the lifestyle here is so good. But I think there's also a sort of mythical quality and appeal to Los Angeles as a place for dreamers and innovators, whether you're from here or not, this sense that you can actually change the world being here, that things that happen in Los Angeles actually do impact, the globe. And so if you sort of want to co-create the future, you can do that here in LA. And it's what keeps people so tied here. So we have these big headlines of people are moving to Texas. And I think if you've been to Texas or spent any amount of time there, I have had friends who have gone for a couple of weeks and quickly come back, that there is a sense of this mythical beast that is Los Angeles, that is driving what the future of our humanity will be in so many ways. And the mayor has put forth, the most progressive budget by any city in the country. And because we're tackling all of the most wicked problems that are facing humanity right now, along with the most aspirational goals that we have. And I think those things combined together are why we can harness all of these global events and national events that are coming here to bring more investment and more interest to our city. We also have a lot of land, so you can keep building.
Thank you, Jamie. Yeah, spoken like a true real estate professional. And Jean, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously, we have this conference where we have such incredible companies participating. I don't see people running for the hills, so we have a lot of exciting things happening. What keeps you feeling positive about the future of Los Angeles?
So I think, as you mentioned in my introduction, I chair the Alliance for Southern California Innovation. So I've spent several years focused on this topic. This alliance also started with UCLA and the other universities in Southern California as their charter members. And when you think about the quality of the universities and their scale in Southern California, it's unmatched by any region, any city, anywhere in the world. Not only do we have UCLA and USC, the two obvious universities, with 45,000 students in each university, between undergraduates and graduate students, enormous places, enormous institutions with healthcare and engineering and hard science, all sorts of things that make them incredibly rich sources of innovation and talent. But we also have Caltech, an international treasure, the only thing like Caltech anywhere in the world, which also runs JPL, also an international treasure. You begin to stop and say, wow, but even, in Orange County, south of us, Irvine has become an incredibly impressive place. University of California in San Diego or in Santa Barbara, the Claremont colleges. I mean, you can name multiple institutions which create foundations for this talent. So the talent's here. The science is here. The quality of the lifestyle is unmatched anywhere in the world. And that's what draws people. But the final piece is we actually have a very welcoming community. And this is one of the things I learned during the Olympic bid process. Our community is a community that is more diverse than any other place anywhere in the world. And people who live here represent literally well over 100 different countries of the world. We used to say to members of the IOC, anybody from any country in the world is likely to have a home field advantage because they'll find people from their own community who've chosen to settle here. And they will feel like they belong here. And, the issue is they'll come here and they'll want to stay. And that's what we found for generations. So we are really, really fortunate in Southern California. What we ought to do as much as possible is to make sure people understand it. We can always use more investment dollars and more innovation in this community because I think we'll be very effective at taking advantage of it.
Well, thank you both so much. It was really incredible to hear your perspectives, and you both convinced me I'm actually going to stay now. So I think those tax dollars are well worth it because of everything that you're both doing. So thank you again to everybody who was paying attention to our keynote, and I'll turn it back over to Mark as we wrap up.
Thank you, Eric, Jaime, and Jean. And Eric, I hope you stay with UCLA, especially now that Jamie's been on the, the call. But, I think just to comment, thank you for it's a great way to kick off LABEST because the optimistic theme, resonates throughout bioscience. And that's what I think is going to be reflected throughout. And so really recommending this type of topic that's pan-LA, right? It's optimistic, it's hope, and it's seeing how we're advancing is critical. And so thanks again, Eric, and look forward to
Thank you.
throughout.